let me just bring up, I'm going to bring up my bookmarks here. Did I get my, here we go. Good. So as I mentioned, the last couple of sessions, we're deep into the springtime finest NGCs, thanks to Alan Dyer, who produced the list that's in the Observer's Handbook. And because most of these objects are faint, fuzzy galaxies, we don't really have a way of, highlighting certain sets of them at different times of the spring, because we're going to have weeks where the moon is bright, weeks where the moon is dim. Basically, we're going to just assume that the sky is dark and you're going to chase after them whenever you've got a clear moonless night to go after them for. So I'm just sort of, instead of, highlighting them in that order, worrying about what the moon's doing, I just essentially took them, the ones in the west, and I'm just sort of marching east through the list of spring objects. And what I'm going to do this time is I've got this set of objects here that are highlighted, and our friend, or your friend, when you're finding these, is going to be the same friend you use if you want to look at the Virgo cluster or Markarian's chain of galaxies, and that is the star Denebola. Let me just bring up some star names here, so there are a little more of these here listed. There we go. The star Denebola at the tail of Leo the lion, or the nose of the mouse, if you want to turn that constellation around the other way. And then Vindemayatrix, which is one of the arms of Virgo. And these two relatively bright stars are usually very easy to find in the sky on a night that you're going to be looking at galaxies anyway. And if you make note of the kind of the line between them, that's going to help you navigate to a lot of these objects. So I've got the stellarium set to 10 p.m., which is, when the sky is truly dark around this time of the year. And first up here is NGC 4762. It's also known as the Paper Kite Galaxy, 4762. That's this one. The reason I put this one first is because it's tucked in close to Vindemayatrix. And if you're doing that trip from Vindemayatrix to Denebola, it's kind of your first stop along the way. Now, by the way, these finest NGCs are just a small sampling of the many dozens of galaxies in the neighborhood. If I bring up, as you can see here, so, it could be a little bit tricky to find one from the other. I'm going to try to guide you to the right one. So this galaxy is just center it up here. Now, again, Stellarium doesn't always have a photo for the galaxies, so you can bring up the Deep Sky Survey button at the bottom here, and that'll reveal the DSS image of it. And I'm going to turn off the stars here so you can see what it looks like. This is a nice special lenticular galaxy. It's one of the flattest galaxies that we know of. Now, it's edge-on orientation, and because there's no dark dust, as sometimes these galaxies have, make this object bright enough to see in medium size and larger telescopes. So you get that nice bright slash of light that makes it a bit easier. It's in the same field of view as NGC 4754. And this object itself, the 4762, was discovered by William Herschel back on March 15th, 1784, and he classed it as number 75 in his type 2 galaxies. So as I said, it's on that line connecting Vindemayatrix to Denebola, but only 2¼ degrees west of Denebola. So if I kind of open up this field of view here, I think I can. Let me bring up the stars. So there you can see there's Vindemayatrix, and it's really only a couple of 1½ degree fields of view to the west of that. On your way, you're going to pass a nice double star. This is Struve 1689, so you can sort of stop and enjoy that double star on your way to it. And of course, as all with these galaxies, you want to use averted vision. You want to use, again, a range of different magnifications. So start, locate it with a lower power, but then magnify more as your conditions permit. And you're going to note its shape, its orientation. See if you've got a bigger telescope, see if you can see that it's not a perfect plane. Look at the way these two ends are a little bit bent. So that's interesting. And you've got some nice field stars as well to take note of. So we want to describe its core, describe how far you see the disk extending, especially if you have a bigger telescope. And don't forget to, look at its neighbor when you're still in the neighborhood. It's about 64 million light years away. All right, let's wind back a little bit. I'm just going to bring this back here. So now we're going to go further from Vindematrix. We're going to go to NGC 4526. So you can star hop if you want to from 4762, or you can just make your way to 4526.
Chris, somebody's asking, are you heading east there, basically? This is on the east side of Vindematrix.
Yeah. So in the spring evening time, you're essentially going to the upper right. You're going west, right? In terms of celestial coordinates. So Denebola is west of Vindematrix. Is that what you mean?
I think that's what they were shooting at. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So from Canada or the Northern Hemisphere, you're essentially going to the upper right from Vindematrix. Yeah, no problem. All right, here's my 4526. Here we go. So this is actually, again, let me just bring up the picture here again. Here we go. So this is another one of those lenticular galaxies. It shares a low power field with another finest NGC, so you get 2 for 1. If I open up the eyepiece view here, you can see you've got both finest NGCs in the same field of view. So you're going to want to log both of these at the same time. And you've also got Messier 49, which is just sitting down here. So if I can make this move. There we go. So if you've got about a 1.5 degree field of view, you can get M49 and the 2 finest NGCs in the same field of view at the same time, if you want to. I've heard reports that 4526 is bright enough to be seen with binoculars on a very good dark sky. So any size of a telescope will work as well. Discovered by William Herschel back on April 18th, 1784, number 31 of his class 1. He also picked 4535 as his number 38 in his class 1. The best way to find it is probably to get yourself to M49. And what you can do is, let me just bring this back here. So I'm just going to bring up some stars here. So rather than use Vindematrix and going to Denebola, find Minalauva. This is the Delta Virginis. And from here, it's pretty much exactly on the line to Denebola. So you can, I think it's 40, what did I say? 40% of the way. So less than halfway between the 2 stars. So that's another way of doing it. So if you can see M49, you're away to the races, but otherwise you can sort of aim your finder 40% of the way from Minalauva to Denebola. Another way you can do it is you can start at Vindematrix, and you can hop to some of these brighter stars like Rho, and again down to this. And when you're in the right neighborhood, you're going to see a couple of nice bright field stars kind of flanking it. So we've got these magnitude 6.7 and 6.9, so relatively prominent stars, and you want to look between them for the galaxy. Again, you want to use your averted vision. Just zoom in with a telescope view here. I'll bring up the deep sky image, turn off the stars so you get a sense of what it looks like. So a neat little kind of trio of the galaxy between the 2 stars. Vary your magnifications with this one. Notice the bright core. See how much of the halo you can pick up. Look for any asymmetry in it. So I'll just zoom in here and see the asymmetry in it. And the reason I mention the asymmetry is because the stellarium image I'm showing you doesn't really do justice to this galaxy. After you've observed it, go look up a Hubble image. You'll be impressed. This one's about 40 million light years away. All right, now the 4535, its name is the Lost Galaxy of Copeland, or the Lost Galaxy. It's about a magnitude, almost magnitude 10, 9.73. It's a medium-sized, kind of grand design spiral with a slight bar. So the barred spiral galaxy, and was discovered by William Herschel on December 28th of 1785. You might be able to see it in a 4-inch telescope, at least the core anyway. Under very dark skies, it'll certainly be visible in a bigger telescope than that. I recommend viewing it at the same time as the previous one as well.
Yeah, somebody's asking if you could see it with a 254 millimeter scope using 70x.
250 millimeter.
254 millimeter telescope using 70 magnification.
So that's a 10-inch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. I don't think there'd be any problem with that. Yeah, yeah. So you're well ahead of the game if you've got a 10-inch telescope for any of these NGCs. Again, finding it the same way you found the other object because they're sharing the same field of view. I did mention.
Yeah, I guess what he wants to know with a telescope question is, can I see the arms with a 10-inch telescope?
Ah, can you see the arms? So that was my point. If you have a bigger telescope, see if you can see the S shape. I think you've got a very good chance of picking up the S shape if your transparency that night is good and your sky is very dark. But that would be certainly something that I would suggest looking for if you've got the bigger scope. Yeah. Yeah, you anticipated my notes. I was going to mention. Nice. All right, what's up next? Got a bit of a challenging one next, I found. That was the Siamese twins. So I'm just going to wind back and show you where these are. All right. So now we're back on the line from Vindemayatrix to Denebula, and we're going to go to NGC 4567 and 4568. So that's, here we go. 4567. Where am I here? So this one is a pair of unbarred spirals discovered by William Herschel on March 15th, 1784. He called these number 8 and 9 of his class 4 objects. This one's going to need at least a 6-inch telescope to see it, and dark skies. That'll show you a kind of a fuzzy smudge. You might be able to detect that it's not a regular shape in that size of a telescope, but you definitely want a bigger telescope if you want to see the fact that it's kind of a V-shaped pair of galaxies interacting or colliding. It's about 1 degree south of the line from Vindemayatrix to Denebula. So if you've got a wide field eyepiece, then you should be pretty safe just to nudge the telescope a little bit to the south of the line, and you're going to go about 1/3 of the way. So kind of aim your telrad or your finder scope about 1/3 of the way between the stars, and then nudge it a little bit to the south, and you should be able to pick up the spot you need. Also, there's a bright Messier here that might catch your eye first. Messier 58 is right in the neighborhood as well, so that's something you could sort of target first and then navigate from there. So what I noted when I was looking at it was this neat kind of ring of shepherd stars. Maybe there's an asterism for us in there, Charles, I don't know, but this kind of a neat little shepherd or audience to these stars kind of doing their galaxies, doing their thing. I guess we could get a little colorful here, but we don't need to. So yeah, you want to use inverted vision, try to see if you can see the shapes. You might be able to pick up, the individual halos, the 2 different halos, and note those cool, interesting field stars. And there are other galaxies in the neighborhood as well. So, you're bound to see some other ones if you look around. Now from here, I recommend getting yourself to Markarian's chain. So let's bring up whole picture. Markarian's chain is, I wrote it up in the final Sky News magazine, if you've got a copy of that handy. And you want to go midway between Vindematrix and Denebula, just aim your finder or aim your telescope is close to halfway between those two stars as you can. Zoom in, and what you're going to pick up or notice is you're probably going to see the fuzzy blob of Messier 87, or hopefully you're going to see the duo of M84 and M86. And that's going to give you the beginnings of Markarian's chain, which sweeps kind of to the east and north from those two bright elliptical galaxies. And these two finest NGCs, another 2-for-1 situation, are huddled in close. And some people, you know, obviously your telescope is going to maybe flip the orientation a little bit here, but some people imagine they're seeing a little face, the two big bright ellipticals as the eyes, a little dim galaxy as the nose, and NGC 4388 as the mouth. So let me just center this up here. 4388, here we go. So 4388 is a highly inclined spiral galaxy. It's located at that end, the one end of Markarian's chain. That makes it really easy to find. And it will be bright enough to see in most telescopes under dark skies because it's, you know, barely inclined away from edge on. So it's nice and concentrated light. And you want to use your averted vision again. And again, try some different magnifications to see its stellar core and how much of its kind of sort of oval lozenge you can track out to the edge of it. And obviously, you know, as we're in the Virgo cluster, when you're here, look around, see if you can see any of these other fainter galaxies in the neighborhood as well. Pick those up as well. This one's about 4388 is about 55 million light years away. All the Markarian's chain galaxies are about that distance. All right, so while we're in the neighborhood, we're going to head over here and sweep to the east and pick up what are called the eyes. These two galaxies form a relatively bright pair in your telescope. In fact, if you look at the surface brightness of NGC 4438, look at this. It's only surface brightness of 11.41. That's crazy bright. So that actually will make it quite readily visible in most size of a telescope. So we call those the eyes. They're discovered by William Herschel back on April 8th of 1784. And you can see if you zoom in, if your sky is good and your telescope's a bit bigger, you can note that the disk has been dramatically warped by the gravitational interactions of its neighbor and other galaxies in the cluster. That makes this galaxy an ARP galaxy. ARP's number 120 of its peculiar galaxies. So when you use your averted vision, tease out some details of it. Can you see the two cores of the two galaxies, the warped halos? And if I just simulate the telescope view, you can see that at a low power, you can easily navigate yourself along Markarian's chain, even though it's sort of flipped upside down in a Dobsonian telescope. And yeah, so I recommend once you're here, keep on going, find the rest of the chain. All right, let's come back. Got a few more to cover here. So now we've gone halfway from Vindematrix to Denebula. Now we're going to head a little bit further afield to NGC 4216. This is called the Silver Streak Galaxy, or the Weaver's Shuttle. And another one of these relatively easy to see galaxies because it's so edge on to us. Makes a bright oval. It's a real showpiece. I'm not sure why it didn't warrant inclusion in Messier's list. It's magnitude 10, surface brightness of 12. It's a really great galaxy. Highly recommend checking it out. It's also flanked by these two edge-on spirals. Look at this, one here and one here. Those are designations 4222 and 4206. So if your telescope is big enough and your sky's good, you might get all three in your view if you're lucky. So this one, 4216, was discovered by William Herschel on April 17th of 1784, number 35 on his class 1 list. And it should be visible by most any telescope. Let's see. The way I found it was I star hopped from NGC 4388. So where was my Well, I actually used one of the finest NGCs and I just star hopped east from there or west from there towards the nebula. You want to use reverted vision, start out at low power, and then crank it up if your conditions allow to see more of the characteristics of the galaxy. This one's got a dust lane in it, so that'll affect, you know, how fuzzy or how sharp the various edges of the galaxy are. So you want to make note of all those, see if you see the companions. Again, it's about 55 million light years away. All right, the last one up is this one down here in Southern Virgo. We're going to look at NGC 4699. Stephen O'Meara in his book, Secret Deep, I think, or Hidden Treasures, calls this the vinyl LP galaxy because he sort of thought it looked like a light glinting off an old vinyl record. So here we go. Again, Stellarium has no picture, so I'm going to bring up the deep sky survey image of it. Here we go. It's kind of like a platter. You can see there's a bright core that makes it really easy. He suggested you can see this one with binoculars, or at least detect it as a fuzzy spot with binoculars. Really, any size of a telescope should be able to pick it up with such a bright core. Discovered by William Herschel on March 3rd, 1786, number 129 of his group number 1 class of objects. And I've got it noted as being midway between 2 magnitude 4 stars. So I'm just going to turn off this and bring those into view. Let's go back here. So the star Psi and Chi Virginis. So you've got, there's Psi and there's Chi or Chi. So these are both close to naked eye stars. Definitely binoculars would see them. So that would greatly aid your aiming your finder scope. Or you can look at making a triangle with Spica and Porrima on the Corvus side. That's another way of doing it. Or you could, let's see, I have aiming your finder midpoint between Genia and, go, one of these stars. I forget which one I used. But anyway, there's a few ways you can find it. So when you're there, you want to look for another cool little asterism, this little arc, little curl of stars, this arc of stars. The middle one or the second one is a double star. That'll be neat. So that'll confirm you're in the right spot using the 2 bright ones and the little arc below. And again, you want to use, just bring up the eyepiece view here. Here we go. And here's what we're going to see. So again, this one's pretty small, so you want to increase the magnification. Let's bring up my. There we go. Is it going to do it? There we go. There's the magnification at about 65x. So you want to zoom in with different magnifications, look at different aspects of the galaxy. You can see the orientation, the shape, and if you've got a big telescope, you might detect our friend with the 10-inch. See if you can see some detail or structure in the sort of the flocculent outer ring of the arms. They're sort of choppy. This one's about 60 to 75 million light years away. And that's it for now. That's the list.
Okay, someone's got their hand up. Susan, I'm going to allow you to talk so you can ask a question. And she now sent her a request to asking her to unmute. Nope. Okay.
Shy? Too shy?
I'll leave
Maybe
it
it was a thumbs up rather than hands.
well, it's a hand rather than a thumbs up. But anyway, I'll leave it open for a second in case she does want to jump in. But somebody said shepherd stars. Well, yeah, it's stars around the object, sort of spectators, like you say. There are a whole bunch of shepherd asterisms up there. They're in Cepheus, they're in Ophiuchus, they're in Ursa Major, and elsewhere, but there aren't any shepherd asterisms that I know of around Virgo, at least not yet.
Yeah. So obviously with when you're dealing with galaxies, your telescope, your eyes, your sky all make a difference. But what's great is that if you can match up the star field so you know you're in the right spot. Then you can take a few minutes to try to tease out that faint fuzzy, maybe tap the telescope, see if you can make it wiggle, make your wiring in your brain, reveal that faint object. Or just, make note of the way it looked, come back another night when it's better and try again. But, yeah, we use all these tricks.
Somebody wants you to do a Hubble constant show.
A Hubble constant show.
That's what they say.
Okay. Great. Yeah, I'm happy to take suggestions. Don't mean I'm an expert, but we'll try to find somebody who is so that's fine. Great. Well, I hope everybody gets some clear skies. The weather is improving. It's not going to be great in Toronto, but folks elsewhere, and watch out for aurora. We've been getting some great shows from the sun.
Yes, somebody was saying, is asking anyone show aurora borealis on Sunday night. It was down way south on Sunday night. I didn't have a sky to see it here, but
Not here either.
yeah. Well,
Fantastic.
actually, should ask Vicki Johar from the Yukon Center what it looked like up there. She did a presentation for our center the other day on aurora, and they've got some fabulous photos. Because they're right up there in the oval most of the time.
Fantastic.
All right.
All right. Well, that's it for today, everybody. I hope you have clear skies and luck with these, and let us know how you're doing. And definitely try them. You don't need to finish. Don't worry about not being able to finish the whole list. I guarantee you there's a lot of really fantastic gems in the finest NGCs we're looking at. Definitely worth looking at. So
All right.
keep looking up.
Thanks, everyone.